the Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit text by Pratap Chandra Roy C.I.E. This free ebook has been downloaded from holybooks.com. Vana Parva. Section 140, Tirthayatra Paroa continued. Yudhishthira said, O Vrikodra, there are mighty and powerful invisible spirits at this place. We shall, however, pass it, through the merit of our asceticism and Agnihotra sacrifices. O son of Kunti, do thou therefore restrain thy hunger and thirst by collecting thy energies, and also, O Vrikodra, have recourse to thy strength and cleverness. O Kunti's son, thou hast heard what the sage, Lomisa, had said regarding Mount Kailas. Ascertain, therefore, after deliberation, how Krishna will pass the spot. Or, O mighty Bhima of large eyes, do return from hence, taking with thee Sahdeva, and all our charioteers, cooks, servants, cars, horses, and Brahmanas worn out with travel, while I together with Nakula and the sage Lomisa of severe austerities proceed, subsisting on the lightest fare and observing vows. Do thou in expectation of my return, cautiously wait at the source of the Ganga, protecting Draupadi till I come back. Bhima replied, O descendant of Bharata, although this blessed princess hath been sore afflicted by toil and distress, yet she easily proceedeth, in the hope of beholding him of the white steeds, Arjuna. Thy dejection also is already very great at not seeing the high-souled Arjuna, who never retreateth from fight. O Bharata, it is superfluous then to say that if thou sayest neither myself nor Sahdeva nor Krishna, thy dejection will certainly increase. The Brahmanas had better return with our servants, charioteers, cooks and whomsoever else thou mayst command. I never shall leave thee in these rugged and inaccessible mountainous regions, infested by Rakshasas. And, O tiger among men, also this princess of high fortune, ever devoted to her lords, desireth not to return without thee. Satyadeva is always devoted to thee, he too will never retrace his steps. His disposition is known to me. O king, O mighty monarch, we are all eager to behold Savyasachin, and therefore, will we all go together. If we are unable to go over this mountain in our cars, abounding as it doth in defiles, well, we would go on foot. Trouble thyself not, O king, I shall carry Panchala's daughter wherever she will be incapable of walking. O king, I have decided upon this. Therefore let not thy mind be distracted. I shall also carry over inaccessible tracts those tender-bodied heroes, the twins, the delight of their mother, wherever they will be incapable of proceeding. Yudhishthira said, May thy strength increase, O Bhima, as thou speakest thus, and as thou boldly undertakest to carry the illustrious Panchali and these twins. Blessed be thou. Such courage dwelleth not in any other individual. May thy strength, fame, merit, and reputation increase. O long-armed one, as thou offerest to carry Krishna and our brothers the twins, exhaustion and defeat never be thine. Vasampayana said, Then the charming Krishna said with a smile, O descendant of Bharata, I shall be able to go, and, therefore, be thou not anxious on my account. Lomisa said, Access to the mountain, Gandhamdana, is only to be obtained by dint of asceticism. Therefore, O son of Kunti, shall we all practice austerities, O king, Nakula, Satyadeva, Bhimsena, thou and myself, shall then see him of the white steeds, O Kunti's son. Vasampayana said, O king, thus conversing together, they saw with delight the extensive domains of Suvaru, situated on the Himalayas abounding in horses and elephants, densely inhabited by the Kiratas and the Tanganas, crowded by hundreds of Pulindas, frequented by the Celestials, and rife with wonders. King Suvaru, the lord of the Pulindas, cheerfully received them at the frontiers of his dominions, paying them proper respect. Having been thus received with honor, and having dwelt comfortably at this place, they started for the mountain Himalaya, when the sun shone brightly in the firmament. And, O king, having entrusted to the care of the lord of the Pulindas, all their servants Indrasena and the others, and the cooks and the stewards, and Draupadi's accoutrements, and everything else, those mighty charioteers, the son of the Kurus, endued with great prowess, set out from that country, and began to proceed cautiously with Krishna, all of them cheerful in the expectation of beholding Arjuna. Yudhishthira said, O Bhimsena, O Panchali, and ye twins, hearken unto my words. The acts done by a person in a former birth do not perish, without producing their effects. Behold, even we have become rangers of the wilderness. Even to see Dhananjaya, exhausted and distressed as we are, we have to bear each other, and pass through impassable places. This burneth me even as fire doth a heap of cotton. O hero, I do not see Dhananjaya at my side. I reside in the wood with my younger brothers, anxious for beholding him. This thought, as also the memory of that grave insult offered to Yajnasni, consumes me. O Vrikodra, I do not see the invincible path of strong bow and incomparable energy, and who is the immediate elder to Nakula. For this, O Vrikodra, I am miserable. In order to see that hero, Dhananjaya, firm in promise, for these 5 years have I been wandering in various tirthas, and beautiful forests and lakes, and yet I do not meet with him. For this, O Vrikodra, I am miserable. I do not see the long-armed Gudkesa, of dark blue hue, and leonine gait. For this, O Vrikodra, I am miserable. I do not see that foremost of Kurus, accomplished in arms, skillful in fight, and matchless among bowmen. For this, O Vrikodra, I am miserable. Distressed for I do not see that son of Pritha, Dhananjaya, born under the influence of the star Falguni, ranging amidst foes even like Yam at the time of the universal dissolution, possessed of the prowess of an elephant with the temporal juice trickling down, endued with leonine shoulders, not inferior to Sakra himself in prowess and energy, elder in years to the twins, of white steeds, unrivaled in heroism, invincible, and wielding a strong bow. For this, O Vrikodra, I am miserable. And he is always of a forgiving temper, even when insulted by the meanest individual. And he conferreth benefit and protection to the righteous, but to that tortuous person who by craft attempts to do him mischief, Dhananjaya is like unto virulent poison, albeit that one were Sakra himself. And the mighty Vibhatsu of immeasurable soul and possessing great strength, showeth mercy and extendeth protection even to a foe when fallen. And he is the refuge of us all, and he crusheth his foes in fight. And he hath the power to collect any treasure whatever, and he ministereth unto our happiness. It was through his prowess that I had owned formerly measureless precious jewels of various kinds, which at present Suyodhana hath usurped. It was by his might, O hero, that I had possessed before that palatial amphitheatre embellished with all manner of jewels, and celebrated throughout the 3 worlds. O Pandu's son, in prowess, Falguni is like unto Vasudeva, and in fight he is invincible and unrivaled, even like unto Kartavirya. Alas! I see him not, O Bhima. In might, that conqueror of foes goeth in the wake of the invincible and most powerful Sankarsana, Valarma, and Vasudeva. In strength of arms and spirit, he is like unto Purandara himself. And in swiftness, he is even as the wind, and in grace, as the moon, and in ire, he is the eternal death himself. O mighty armed one, with the object of beholding that warlike tiger among men, shall we repair to the Gandhamdana mountain, where lies the hermitage of Nara and Narayana at the site of the celebrated jujube tree, and which is inhabited by the yakshas. We shall see that best of mountains. And, practicing severe austerities, only on foot we shall go to Kuvara's beautiful lake guarded by Rakshasas. That place cannot be reached by vehicles, O Vrikodra. Neither can cruel, or avaricious, or irascible people attain to that spot, O Bharata's son. O Bhima, in order to see Arjuna, thither shall we repair, in company with Brahmanas of strict vows, girding on our swords, and wielding our bows. Those only that are impure, meet with flies, gadflies, mosquitoes, tigers, lions, and reptiles, but the pure never come across them. Therefore, regulating our fare, and restraining our senses, we shall go to the Gandhamdana, desirous of seeing Dhananjaya. Thus ends the 140th section in the Tirthaitara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 141, Tirthayatra Parva continued. Lomesa said, O sons of Pandu, ye have seen many a mountain, and river, and town, and forest, and beautiful Tirtha, and have touched with your hands the sacred waters. Now this way leads to the celestial mountain Mandara, therefore be ye attentive and composed. Ye will now repair to the residence of the celestials and the divine sages of meritorious deeds. Here, O king, flows the mighty and beautiful river Alkananda of holy water adored by hosts of celestials and sages, and tracing its source to the site of the jujube tree. It is frequented and worshipped by high-souled Vahayasas, Valkilyas and Gandhavas of mighty souls. Accustomed to sing the Sama hymns, the sages, Marichi, Pulaha, Brigu and Angiras, chanted them at this spot. Here the Lord of Celestials performed with the Maruts his daily prayers. And the Sadhyas and the Aswins attend on him. The sun, the moon and all the luminaries with the planets resort to this river, alternately by day and by night. O highly fortunate monarch, that protector of the world, Mahadev, having a bull for his mark, received on his head the fall of the waters of this river, at the source of the Ganga. O children, approach this goddess of the six attributes and bow down before her with concentrated minds. Hearing the words of the high-souled Lomisa, the son of Pandu reverentially worshipped the river, Ganga, flowing through the firmament. And after having adored her, the pious sons of Pandu resumed their journey accompanied by the sages. And it came to pass that those best of men beheld at a distance some white object of vast proportions, even like Meru and stretching on all sides. And knowing that Pandu's sons were intent upon asking him, Lomesa burst in speech said, Hear, O sons of Pandu! O best of men, what ye see before you, of vast proportions like unto a mountain and beautiful as the Kailas cliff, is a collection of the bones of the mighty Daitya, Naka. Being placed on a mountain, it looketh like one. The Daitya was slain by that supreme soul, the eternal God Vishnu, for the good of the Lord of Celestials. Aiming at the possession of Indra's place, by the force of austere and Vedic lore, That mighty-minded demon had practiced austere penances for 10,000 years. And on account of his asceticism, as also of the force and might of his arms, he had grown invincible and always harassed Indra. And O sinless one, knowing his strength and austerities and observance of religious vows, Indra became agitated and was overwhelmed with fear. And mentally he thought of the eternal deity, Vishnu. And thereat the graceful Lord of the universe, who is present everywhere, appeared and stood before him manifest. And the sages and celestials began to propitiate Vishnu with prayers. And in his presence even Agni of the 6 attributes and of blazing beauty, being overpowered by his effulgence, became shorn of radiance, and seen before him the god Vishnu, the chief of the celestials, who wields the thunderbolt, bowing with head down readily apprised Vishnu of the source of his fear. Thereupon Vishnu said, I know, O Sakra, that thy fear proceedeth from Narka, that lord of the Daityas. By the merit of his successful ascetic acts he aimeth at Indra's position. Therefore, for pleasing thee, I shall certainly sever his soul from his body, although he hath achieved success in asceticism. Do thou, Lord of Celestials, wait for a moment. Then the exceedingly powerful Vishnu deprived Narka of his senses by striking him with his hand. And he fell down on the earth even like the monarch of mountains struck by thunder. He was thus slain by a miracle, and his bones lie gathered at this spot. Here also is manifest another deed of Vishnu's. Once the whole earth having been lost and sunk into the nether regions, she was lifted up by him in the shape of a boar having a single tusk. Yudhishthira said, O worshipful one, relate in particular how Vishnu, the Lord of the Celestials, raised up the earth sunk 100 yojanas. In what manner also was that support of all created things the goddess Earth of high fortune, who dispensate blessings and bringeth forth all sorts of corn rendered stable. Through whose power had she sunk 100 yojanas below, and under what circumstances was exhibited this greatest exploit of the Supreme Being? O chief of the twice-born race, I wish to hear all about it in detail as it happened. Certainly, it is known to thee. Lomesa said, O Yudhishthira, listen to all at length as I relate the story, which thou hast asked me to narrate. O child, in days of yore, there was once a terrible time in the Krita Yuga, when the eternal and primeval deity assumed the duties of Yam. And, O thou that never fallest off, when the god of gods began to perform the functions of Yam, there died not a creature while the births were as usual. Then there began to multiply birds and beasts and kin, and sheep, and deer, and all kinds of carnivorous animals. O tiger among men and vanquisher of foes, then the human race also increased by thousands, even like unto a current of water. And, O my son, when the increase of population had been so frightful, the earth oppressed with the excessive burden, sunk down for 100 yojanas, and suffering pain in all her limbs, and being deprived of her senses by excessive pressure, the earth in distress sought the protection of Narayana, the foremost of the gods. The earth spake saying, It is by thy favor, O possessor of the 6 attributes, that I had been able to remain so long in my position. But I have been overcome with burden, and now I cannot hold myself any longer. It behoveth thee, O adorable one, to relieve this load of mine. I have sought thy protection, O Lord, and do thou, therefore, extend unto me thy favor. Hearing these words of hers, the eternal Lord, possessor of the 6 attributes, complacently said, in words uttered in distinct letters, Vishnu said, Thou need not fear, O afflicted earth, the bearer of all treasures. I shall act so that thou mayst be made light. Lomisa said, having thus dismissed the earth, who hath the mountains for her earrings, he suddenly became turned into a boar with one tusk, and of exceeding effulgence, causing terror with his glowing red eyes and emitting fumes from his blazing luster. He began to swell in magnitude in that region. O hero, then holding the earth with his single radiant tusk, that being who pervaded the Vedas, raised her up 100 yojanas. And while she was being thus raised, there ensued a mighty agitation, and all the celestials, together with the sages of ascetic wealth, became agitated. And heaven, and the firmament, and also the earth were filled with exclamations of "O I" and "Alas!" And neither the celestials nor men could rest in peace. Then countless celestials together with the sages went to Brahma, who was seated burning as it were in his own luster. Then approaching Brahma, the Lord of celestials, and the witness of the acts of all beings, they with folded hands spake the following words: O Lord of the celestials, all created beings have become agitated, and the mobile and immobile creatures are restless. O Lord of the celestials, even the oceans are found to be agitated, and this whole earth hath gone down 100 yojanas. What is the matter? And by whose influence is it that the whole universe is in ferment? May it please thee to explain it unto us without delay, for we are all bewildered. Thereupon Brahma replied, Ye immortals! Do ye not entertain fear for the asuras, in any matter or place? Hearken, ye celestials, to the reason to which all this commotion is owing. This agitation in the heavens hath been produced by the influence of the illustrious being who is omnipresent, eternal, and the never-perishing soul. That supreme soul, Vishnu, hath lifted up the earth, who had entirely sunk down 100 yojanas. This commotion hath taken place in consequence of the earth being raised up. Know ye his, and dispel your doubts. The celestials said, Where is that being who with pleasure raiseth up the earth? O possessor of the 6 attributes, mention unto us the place. Thither shall we repair. Brahma said, Go ye. May good happen to you. Ye will find him resting in the Nandana gardens. Yonder is visible the glorious worshipful Suparna, Garuda. After having raised the earth, the Supreme Being from whom the worlds become manifest, flamed even in the shape of a boar, like unto the all-consuming fire at the universal dissolution. And on his breast is really to be seen the gem Srivatsa. Go and behold that being, knowing no deterioration. Lomesa said, Then the celestials, placing the grandsire at their head, came to that infinite soul, and having listened to his praise, bade him adieu and went back to whence they had come. Vasampayana said, O Janamejaya, having heard this story, all the Pandavas without delay and with alacrity, began to proceed by the way pointed out by Lomisa. Thus ends the 141st section in the Tirthaitara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 142, Tirthayatra Parva continued. Vasampayana said, O king, then those foremost of bowmen, of immeasurable prowess, holding bows stringed at full stretch and equipped with quivers and arrows and wearing finger caps made of the guana skin, and with their swords on, proceeded with Panchali towards the Gandhamdana, taking with them the best of Brahmanas. And on their way they saw various lakes, and rivers, and mountains, and forests, and trees of wide-spreading shade on mountain summits, and places abounding in trees bearing flowers and fruit in all seasons, and frequented by celestials and sages. And restraining their senses within their inner self, and subsisting on fruits and roots, the heroes passed through rugged regions, craggy and difficult of passage, beholding many and various kinds of beasts. Thus those high-souled ones entered the mountain inhabited by the sages, the Siddhas and the celestials, and frequented by the Kinnaras and the Apsaras. And, O Lord of men, as those mighty heroes were entering the mountain Gandhamdana, there arose a violent wind, attended with a heavy shower. And owing to this, mighty clouds of dust bearing lots of dry leaves rose, and all on a sudden covered earth, air and firmament. And when the heavens had been covered with dust nothing could be perceived, neither could they, the Pandavas, speak to one another. And with eyes enveloped with darkness and pushed by the wind carrying particles of rocks they could not see one another. And there began to arrive mighty sounds proceeding from the tree, and also from those breaking down incessantly under the force of the wind, and falling to the ground. And distracted by gusts of the wind, they thought, are the heavens falling down, or the earth and the mountains being rent? And afraid of the wind, they felt about with their hands and took shelter under the wayside tree and anthills and in caverns. Then holding his bow and supporting Krishna the mighty Bhimsena stood under a tree. And Yudhishthira the just with Dharmya crept into the deep wood. And Sahadeva carrying the sacred fire with him took shelter in a rock. And Nakula together with Lomesa and other Brahmanas of great asceticism stood in fright, each under a tree. Then when the wind had abated and the dust subsided, there came down a shower in torrents. There also arose a loud rattling noise, like unto the thunder hurled, and quick flashing lightning began to play gracefully upon the clouds. And being helped on by the swift wind, showers of rain poured down without intermissions, filling all sides round. And, O Lord of men, all around there began to flow many rivers covered with foam and turbid with mud, and these bearing volumes of water spread over the frothy rafts rushed down with tremendous roar uprooting trees. And afterwards when that sound had ceased and the air had arisen they, each of them, cautiously came out of their coverts and met together, O descendant of Bharata. And then the heroes started for the mountain Gandhamdana. Thus ends the 142nd section in the Tirthaitara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 143, Tirthayatra Parva continued. Vasampayana said, when the high-souled sons of Pandu had proceeded only 2 miles, Draupadi, unaccustomed to travel on foot, sunk down. Weary and afflicted as she was, the poor daughter of Panchala became faint, on account of the hailstorm and also of her extreme delicacy. And trembling with faintness, the black-eyed one supported herself on her thighs with her plump arms, becoming her graceful form. And thus resting for support on her thighs resembling the trunk of an elephant, and which were in contact with each other, she suddenly dropped upon the ground, trembling like a plantain tree. And finding that the beautiful one was falling down like a twisted creeper, Nakula ran forward and supported her. And he said, O king, this black-eyed daughter of Panchala, being weary, hath fallen down upon the ground. Do thou therefore tend her, O son of Bharata. Undeserving as she is of misery, this lady of slow pace hath been subject to great hardships, and she is also worn out with the fatigues of the journey. O mighty king, do thou therefore comfort her. Vasampayana said, having heard these words of Nakula, the king as also Bhima and Sahdeva, became sorely afflicted, and hastily ran towards her, and finding her weak, and her countenance pale, the pious son of Kunti began to lament in grief, taking her on his lap. Yudhishthira said, accustomed to ease, and deserving to sleep in well-protected rooms, on beds spread over with fine sheets, how doth this beautiful one sleep prostrate on the ground? Alas! On my account alone, the delicate feet and the lotus-like face of this one deserving of all excellent things, have contracted a dark blue hue. Oh, what have I done? Fool that I am, having been addicted to dyes, I have been wandering in the forest full of wild beasts, taking Krishna in my company. This large-eyed one had been bestowed by her father, the king of the Drupdas, in the hope that the blessed girl would be happy, by obtaining the sons of Pandu for her lords. It is on account of my wretched self, that without obtaining anything hoped for, she sleepeth prostrate on the ground, tired with hardships, sorrow and travel. Vasampayana said, while King Yudhishthira the Just was lamenting thus, Dharmya with all the other principal Brahmanas came to the spot. And they began to console him and to honor him with blessings. And they recited mantras capable of dispelling Rakshasas and to that end also performed rites. And on the mantras being recited by the great ascetics, in order to the restoration of Panchali's health, Panchali frequently touched by the Pandavas with their soothing palms and fanned by cool breezes surcharged with particles of water, felt ease, and gradually regained her senses. And finding that exhausted poor lady restored to her senses, the sons of Pritha, placing her on deerskin, caused her to take rest. And taking her feet of red soles, bearing auspicious marks, the twins began to press them gently with their hands, scarred by the bowstring. And Yudhishthira the Just, the foremost of the Kurus, also comforted her and addressed Bhima in the following words, O Bhima, there yet remain many mountains before us, rugged and inaccessible because of snow. How, long-armed one, will Krishna pass over them? Thereupon Bhima said, O king, I myself shall carry thee, together with this princess and these bulls among men, the twins. Therefore, O king of kings, resign not thy mind unto despair. Or, at thy bidding, O sinless one, Hidimvan's son, the mighty Gatotkacha, who is capable of ranging the skies and who is like unto me in strength, will carry us all. Vasampayana said, then with Yudhishthira's permission, Bhima thought of his Rakshasa son. And no sooner was he thought of by his father, than the pious Gatotkacha made his appearance and, saluting the Pandavas and the Brahmanas, stood with joined hands. And they also caressed him of mighty arms. He then addressed his father, Bhimsena of dreadful prowess, saying, having been thought of by thee I have come here with speed, in order to serve thee. Do thou, O long-armed one, command me. I shall certainly be able to perform whatever thou bidst. Hearing this, Bhimsena hugged the Rakshasa to his breast. Thus ends the 143rd section in the Tirthayatara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 144, Tirthayatra Parva continued. Yudhishthira said, O Bhima, let this mighty and heroic Rakshasa chief, thy legitimate son, devoted to us, and truthful, and conversant with virtue, carry his mother Draupadi without delay. And, O possessor of dreadful prowess, depending on the strength of thy arms, I shall reach the Gandhamdana, unhurt, together with Panchala's daughter. Vasampayana said, hearing the words of his brother, that tiger among men, Bhimsena, commanded his son, Gatotkacha, repressor of foes, saying, O invincible son of Hidimvan, this thy mother hath been sorely tired. Thou art, again, strong and capable of going wherever thou likest. Do thou therefore, O ranger of the skies, carry her. May prosperity attend thee. Taking her on thy shoulders, thou shalt go in our company, adopting a course not far overhead, so that thou mayst not render her uneasy. Thereat, Ghatotkacha said, even single-handed, I am able to carry Yudhishthira the just, and Dharmya, and Krishna, and the twins, and what wonder then that I shall today carry them, when I have others to assist me? And, O sinless one, hundreds of other heroic Rakshasas, capable of moving through the sky, and of assuming any shape at will together carry you all with the Brahmanas. Vasampayana said, saying this, Ghatotkacha carried Krishna in the midst of the Pandavas, and the other Rakshasas also began to carry the Pandavas. And by virtue of his native energy, Lomisa of incomparable effulgence moved along the path of the Siddhas, like unto a second sun. And at the command of the Lord of the Rakshasas, those Rakshasas of terrific prowess began to proceed, bearing all the other Brahmanas, and beholding many a romantic wood. And they proceeded towards the gigantic jujube tree, and carried by the Rakshasas of great speed, proceeding at a rapid pace, the heroes passed over long extending ways quickly, as if over short ones. And on their way they saw various tracts crowded with Mlecha people, and containing mines of divers gems. And they also saw hillocks teeming with various minerals, thronged with Vidyadhras, inhabited on all sides by monkeys and kinnaras and kimpurushas, and gandharvas, and filled with peacocks, and chamaras, and apes, and ruras, and bears, and gavayas, and buffaloes, intersected with a network of rivulets, and inhabited by various birds and beasts, and beautified by elephants, and abounding in trees and enraptured birds. After having thus passed many countries, and also the Uttarakuras, they saw that foremost of mountains, the Kailas, containing many wonders. And by the side of it, they beheld the hermitage of Nara and Narayana, with celestial trees bearing flowers and fruits in all seasons. And they also beheld that beautiful jujube of round trunk. And it was fresh, and of deep shade, and of excellent beauty, and of thick, soft and sleek foliage, and healthful, and having gigantic boughs, and wide-spreading, and of incomparable luster, and bearing full-grown, tasteful, and holy fruits dropping honey. And this celestial tree was frequented by hosts of mighty sages, and was always inhabited by various birds maddened with animal spirits. And it grew at a spot devoid of mosquitoes and gadflies, and abounding in fruits and roots and water, and covered with green grass, and inhabited by the celestials and the Gandharvas, and of smooth surface, and naturally healthful, and beauteous and cool and of delicate feel. Having reached that tree together with those bulls among Brahmanas, the high-souled ones gently alighted from the shoulders of the Rakshasas. Then in company with those bulls among the twice-born ones, the Pandavas beheld that romantic asylum presided over by Nara and Narayana, devoid of gloom, and sacred, and untouched by the solar rays, and free from those rubs, viz., hunger, and thirst, heat and cold, and removing all sorrow, and crowded with hosts of mighty sages, and adorned with the grace proceeding from the Vedas, Saman, rich, and Yajus, and, O king, inaccessible to men who have renounced religion, and beautified with offerings, and homas, and sacred, and well swept and daubed, and shining all around with offerings of celestial blossoms, and spread over with altars of sacrificial fire, and sacred ladles and pots, and graced with large water jars, and baskets and the refuge of all beings, and echoing with the chanting of the Vedas, and heavenly, and worthy of being inhabited, and removing fatigue, and attended with splendor and of incomprehensible merit, and majestic with divine qualities. And the hermitage was inhabited by hosts of great sages, subsisting on fruits and roots, and having their senses under perfect control, and clad in black deerskins, and effulgent like unto the sun and Agni, and of souls magnified by asceticism and intent on emancipation, and leading the vanaprastha mode of life, and of subdued senses, and identified with the Supreme Soul, and of high fortune, and reciting Vedic hymns. Then having purified himself and restrained his senses, that son of Dharma, the intelligent Yudhishthira of exceeding energy, accompanied by his brothers, approached those sages. And all the great sages endued with supernatural knowledge, knowing Yudhishthira arrived, received him joyfully. And those sages engaged in the recitation of the Vedas, and like unto fire itself, after having conferred blessings on Yudhishthira, cheerfully accorded him fitting reception. And they gave him clean water and flowers and roots. And Yudhishthira the just received with regard the things gladly offered for his reception by the great sages. And then, O sinless one, Pandu's son together with Krishna and his brothers, and thousands of Brahmanas versed in the Vedas and the Vedangas, entered into that holy hermitage, like unto the abode of Sukra and pleasing the mind with heavenly odors and resembling heaven itself and attended with beauty. There the pious Yudhishthira beheld the hermitage of Nara and Narayana, beautified by the Bhagirathi and worshipped by the gods and the celestial sages. And seeing that hermitage inhabited by the Brahmarshis and containing fruits dropping honey, the Pandavas were filled with delight. And having reached that place, the high-souled ones began to dwell with the Brahmanas. There beholding the holy lake Vinda, and the mountain Mainka, of golden summits and inhabited by various species of birds, the magnanimous ones lived happily with joy. The son of Pandu together with Krishna took pleasure in ranging excellent and captivating woods, shining with flowers of every season, beauteous on all sides with trees bearing blown blossoms, and bending down with the weight of fruits and attended by the numerous male kokilas and of glossy foliage, and thick and having cool shade and lovely to behold. They took delight in beholding divers beautiful lakes of limpid water and shining all round with lotuses and lilies. And there, O Lord, the balmy breeze bearing pure fragrance blew, gladdening all the Pandavas, together with Krishna. And hard by the gigantic Jujube, the mighty son of Kunti saw the Bhagirathi of easy descent and cool and furnished with fresh lotuses and having stairs made of rubies and corals and graced with trees and scattered over with celestial flowers, and gladsome to the mind. And at that spot, frequented by celestials and sages, and extremely inaccessible, they, after having purified themselves offered oblations unto the Pitris and the gods and the Rishis in the sacred waters of the Bhagirathi. Thus those bulls Amoraic men the heroic perpetuators of the Kuru race, began to reside there with the Brahmanas offering oblations and practicing meditation. And those tigers among men, the Pandavas of the godlike appearance, felt delight in witnessing the various amusements of Draupadi. Thus ends the 144th section in the Tirthaitara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 145, Tirthaitara Parva continued. Vasampayana said, there observing cleanliness, those tigers among men dwelt for 6 nights, in expectation of beholding Dhananjaya. And it came to pass that all of a sudden there blew a wind from the northeast and brought a celestial lotus of 1,000 petals and effulgent as the sun. And Panchali saw that pure and charming lotus of unearthly fragrance, brought by the wind and left on the ground. And having obtained that excellent and beautiful lotus, that blessed one became exceedingly delighted, O king, and addressed Bhimsena in the following words: Behold, O Bhima, this most beautiful unearthly flower having within it the very source of fragrance. It gladdeneth my heart, O represser of foes. This one shall be presented to Yudhishthira the just. Do thou, therefore, procure others for my satisfaction in order that I may carry them to our hermitage in the Kamyak. If, O Pritha's son, I have found grace with thee, do thou then procure others of this species in large numbers. I wish to carry them to our hermitage. Having said this, the blameless lady of beautiful glances approached Yudhishthira the just, taking the flower, and knowing the desire of his beloved queen, that bull among men, Bhima of great strength, also set out, in order to gratify her, and intent upon fetching the flowers, he began to proceed at a rapid pace, facing the wind, in the direction from which the flower had come. And taking the bow inlaid with gold on the back, as also arrows like unto venomous snakes, he proceeded as a lion in anger or an elephant in wrath. And all beings gazed at him, holding a mighty bow and arrows. And neither exhaustion, nor languor, neither fear nor confusion, ever possessed the son of Pritha and the offspring of Vayu, wind. And desirous of pleasing Draupadi the mighty one, free from fear or confusion, ascended the peak depending on the strength of his arms. And that slayer of foes began to range that beautiful peak covered with trees, creepers and of black rocky base, and frequented by kinnaras, and variegated with minerals, plants, beasts, and birds of various hues, and appearing like an upraised arm of the earth adorned with an entire set of ornaments. And that one of matchless prowess proceeded, fixing his look at the slopes of the Gandhamdana, beautiful with flowers of every season, and revolving various thoughts in his mind, and with his ears, eyes and mind riveted to the spots resounding with the notes of male kokilas and ringing with the hum of black bees. And like an elephant in wrath ranging mad in a forest, that one of mighty prowess smelt the rare odor proceeding from the flowers of every season. And he was fanned by the fresh breeze of the Gandhamdana, bearing the perfumes of various blossoms, and cooling like unto a father's touch. On his fatigue being removed, the down on his body stood on end. And in this state, that represser of foes for the flowers began to survey all the mountain, inhabited by yakshas and gandharvas and celestials and brahmarshis, and brushed by the leaves of saptachada tree, besmeared with fresh red, black and white minerals. He looked as if decorated with lines of holy unguents drawn by fingers. And with clouds stretching at its sides, the mountain seemed dancing with outspread wings. And on account of the trickling waters of springs, it appeared to be decked with necklaces of pearls. And it contained romantic caverns and groves and cascades and caves. And there were excellent peacocks dancing to the jingling of the bangles of the apsaras. And its rocky surface was worn away by the end of tusks of the elephants presiding over the cardinal points. And with the waters of rivers falling down, the mountain looked as if its clothes were getting loosened. And that graceful son of the wind god playfully and cheerfully went on, pushing away by his force countless intertwisted creepers. And stags in curiosity gazed at him, with grass in their mouths. And not having experienced fear, ever before, they were unalarmed, and did not flee away. And being engaged in fulfilling the desire of his love, the youthful son of Pandu, stalwart and of splendor like unto the hue of gold, and having a body strong as a lion, and treading like a mad elephant, and possessing the force of a mad elephant, and having coppery eyes like unto those of a mad elephant, and capable of checking a mad elephant, began to range the romantic sides of the Gandhamdana with his beautiful eyes uplifted, and displaying as it were a novel type of beauty. And the wives of Yakshas and Gandharvas sitting invisible by the side of their husbands, stared at him, turning their faces with various motions. Intent upon gratifying Draupadi exiled unto the woods, as he was ranging the beautiful Gandhamdana, he remembered the many and various woes caused by Duryodhana. And he thought, now that Arjuna sojourn in heaven and that I too have come away to procure the flowers, what will our brother Yudhishthira do at present? Surely, from affection and doubting their prowess, that foremost of men, Yudhishthira, will not let Nakula and Sahdeva come in search of us. How, again, can I obtain the flowers soon? Thinking thus, that tiger among men proceeded in amain like unto the king of birds, his mind and sight fixed on the delightful side of the mountain. And having for his provisions on the journey the words of Draupadi, the mighty son of Pandu, Vrikodra Bhima, endued with strength and the swiftness of the wind, with his mind and sight fixed on the blooming slopes of the mountain, proceeded speedily, making the earth tremble with his tread, even as doth a hurricane at the equinox, and frightening herds of elephants and grinding lions and tigers and deer and uprooting and smashing large trees and tearing away by force plants and creepers. Like unto an elephant ascending higher and higher the summit of a mountain, and roaring fiercely even as a cloud attended with thunder. And awakened by that mighty roaring of Bhima, tigers came out of their dens, while other rangers of the forest hid themselves. And the coursers of the skies sprang up on their wing in fright. And herds of deer hurriedly ran away. And birds left the trees and fled. And lions forsook their dens. And the mighty lions were roused from their slumber. And the buffaloes stared. And the elephants in fright, leaving that wood, ran to more extensive forests in company with their mates. And the boars and the deer and the lions and the buffaloes and the tigers and the jackals and the gavayas of the wood began to cry in herds. And the ruddy geese, and the gallinules and the ducks and the karandavas and the plavas and the parrots and the male kokilas and the herons in confusion flew in all directions, while some proud elephants urged by their mates, as also some lions and elephants in rage, flew at Bhimsena. And as they were distracted at heart through fear, these fierce animals discharging urine and dung, set up loud yells with gaping mouths. Thereupon the illustrious and graceful son of the wind god, the mighty Pandav, depending upon the strength of his arms, began to slay one elephant with another elephant and one lion with another lion while he dispatched the others with slaps. And on being struck by Bhima, the lions and the tigers and the leopards, in fright gave loud cries and discharged urine and dung. And after having destroyed these, the handsome son of Pandu, possessed of mighty strength, entered into the forest, making all sides resound with his shouts. And then the long-armed one saw on the slopes of the Gandhamdana a beautiful plantain tree spreading over many a yojana. And like unto a mad lion, that one of great strength proceeded amain towards that tree, breaking down various plants. And that foremost of strong persons Bhima, uprooting innumerable plantain trunks equal in height to many palm trees placed one above another, cast them on all sides with force. And that highly powerful one, haughty like a male lion, sent up shouts. And then he encountered countless beasts of gigantic size, and stags, and monkeys, and lions, and buffaloes, and aquatic animals. And what with the cries of these, and what with the shouts of Bhima, even the beasts and birds that were at distant parts of the wood, became all frightened. And hearing those cries of beasts and birds, myriads of aquatic fowls suddenly rose up on wetted wings. And seeing these fowls of water, that bull among the Bharatas proceeded in that direction, and saw a vast and romantic lake. And that fathomless lake was, as it were, being fanned by the golden plantain trees on the coast, shaken by the soft breezes. And immediately descending into the lake abounding in lilies and lotuses, he began to sport lustily like unto a mighty maddened elephant. Having thus sported there for a long while, he of immeasurable effulgence ascended, in order to penetrate with speed into that forest filled with trees. Then the Pandav winded with all his might his loud blowing shell, and striking his arms with his hands, the mighty Bhima made all the points of heaven resound. And filled with the sounds of the shell, and with the shouts of Bhimsena, and also with the reports produced by the striking of his arms, the caves of the mountain seemed as if they were roaring. And hearing those loud arm strokes, like unto the crashing of thunder, the lions that were slumbering in the caves, uttered mighty howls. And being terrified by the yelling of the lions, the elephants, O Bharata, sent forth tremendous roars, which filled the mountain. And hearing those sounds emitted, and knowing also Bhimsena to be his brother, the ape Hanuman, the chief of monkeys, with the view of doing good to Bhima, obstructed the path leading to heaven. And thinking that he, Bhima, should not pass that way, Hanuman lay across the narrow path, beautified by plantain trees, obstructing it for the sake of the safety of Bhima, with the object that Bhima might not come by curse or defeat, by entering into the plantain wood. The ape Hanuman of huge body lay down amidst the plantain trees, being overcome with drowsiness. And he began to yawn, lashing his long tail, raised like unto the pole consecrated to Indra, and sounding like thunder. And on all sides round, the mountains by the mouths of caves emitted those sounds in echo, like a cow lowing. And as it was being shaken by the reports produced by the lashing of the tail, the mountain with its summits tottering, began to crumble all around. And overcoming that roaring of mad elephants, the sounds of his tail spread over the varied slopes of the mountain. On those sounds being heard, the down of Bhima's body stood on end, and he began to range that plantain wood in search of those sounds. And that one of mighty arms saw the monkey chief in the plantain wood, on an elevated rocky base. And he was hard to be looked at even as the lightning flash, and of coppery hue like that of the lightning flash, and endued with the voice of the lightning flash, and quick moving as the lightning flash, and having his short fleshy neck supported on his shoulders, and with his waist slender in consequence of the fullness of his shoulders, and his tail covered with long hair, and a little bent at the end, was raised like unto a banner. And Bhima saw Hanuman's head furnished with small lips, and coppery face and tongue, and red ears, and brisk eyes, and bare white incisors sharpened at the edge. And his head was like unto the shining moon, adorned with white teeth within the mouth, and with mane scattered over, resembling a heap of asoka flowers. And amidst the golden plantain trees, that one of exceeding effulgence was lying like unto a blazing fire, with his radiant body. And that slayer of foes was casting glances with his eyes reddened with intoxication. And the intelligent Bhima saw that mighty chief of monkeys, of huge body, lying like unto the Himalaya, obstructing the path of heaven. And seeing him alone in that mighty forest, the undaunted athletic Bhima, of long arms, approached him with rapid strides, and uttered a loud shout like unto the thunder. And at that shout of Bhima, beasts and birds became all alarmed. The powerful Hanuman, however, opening his eyes partially, looked at him, Bhima, with disregard, with eyes reddened with intoxication. And then smilingly addressing him, Hanuman said the following words. Ill as I am, I was sleeping sweetly. Why hast thou awakened me? Thou shouldst show kindness to all creatures, as thou hast reason. Belonging to the animal species, we are ignorant of virtue, but being endued with reason, men show kindness towards creatures. Why do then reasonable persons like thee commit themselves to acts contaminating alike body, speech, and heart, and destructive of virtue? Thou knowest not what virtue is, neither hast thou taken counsel of the wise. And therefore it is that from ignorance and childishness thou destroyest the lower animals. Say, who art thou, and what for hast thou come to the forest devoid of humanity and human beings? And, O foremost of men, tell thou also, whither thou wilt go today. Further it is impossible to proceed. Yonder hills are inaccessible. O hero, save the passage obtained by the practice of asceticism, there is no passage to that place. This is the path of the celestials, it is ever impassable by mortals. Out of kindness, O hero, do I dissuade thee. Do thou hearken unto my words. Thou canst not proceed further from this place. Therefore, O Lord, do thou desist. O chief of men, today in every way thou art welcome to this place. If thou think it proper to accept my words, do thou then, O best of men, rest here, partaking of fruits and roots, sweet as ambrosia, and do not have thyself destroyed for naught. Thus ends the 145th section in the Tirthaltara Parva of the Vana Parva. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.